Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigian, and you are listening to Be Insured, where we talk about business, leadership, and insurance. That way, on your worst day, when you need it the most, you will be insured. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to tell you about a phenomenal resource we created just for our listeners called the Ultimate Commercial Insurance Roadmap. This guide breaks down the 4 major things every business owner must look out for in order to save money and ensure their company is properly protected. You can get your hands on this guide right now by heading to beinsuredonline.com. That's beinsuredonline.com. I am very excited about today's show because we're discussing a topic I'm wildly passionate about, and that's retirement planning. Now, if you got this giant pit in your stomach because you don't know enough about retirement or you don't feel prepared for retirement, then this is the episode for you. As always, I'm joined by my awesome co-host,
Eric Gestring, the Mardigian Agency.
And we are lucky to be joined by today's guest expert, David McKnight, who is the author of the book, The Power of Zero, How to Get to the 0% Tax Bracket and Transform Your Retirement. David, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, guys. It's an honor.
David, I've read your book cover to cover a handful of times, and it was absolutely transformative to me. One of the things you say in the book is there's a massive freight train bearing down on the average American investor, and it's coming in the form of higher taxes. Can you tell us why you chose to write a book on this topic?
Yeah. So I do a lot of speaking about this particular subject all across the country. I do about 85 different presentations, and wow. I always ask every room full of people that I talk to, how many of you guys think that tax rates in the future, even 10 years from now, are likely to be dramatically higher than they are today? And you know what? Nearly every hand in the room goes up. And then when I ask a follow-up question, which is, how many of you guys have the lion's share of your retirement savings in tax-deferred vehicles like 401ks and IRAs, nearly all the hands go up. So there's this massive disconnect between what people are thinking and what they're actually doing. If they really believed that tax rates in the future were likely to be dramatically higher than they are today, then they would have all of their retirement so they wouldn't have to pay the tax somewhere down the road when tax rates are likely much higher than they are today. So one of my motivations in writing the book was to try to break through that disconnect that people have with how they're thinking and how they're actually acting.
Yeah, no, I love that. I tell my clients that essentially if they're going to go, you talk about 3 buckets, the tax deferred, the tax free, and the
taxable,
the
right?
taxable, right? And it's I tell them, hey, tax deferred is great, especially if you have a match at work, but really you're making it's a written agreement with the government that whatever they charge you for taxes when you're ready to retire, you're okay with paying that, and that's a scary thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I liken it into just basically what you said. I liken it, it's like going into a business partnership with the IRS, and every year the IRS gets to vote on what percentage of your profits they get to keep. Not a great business partnership. So how do you know how much money you have in retirement? Well, unless you can accurately predict what tax rates are going to be in the year you take your money out of those 401ks and IRAs, you don't know how much money you have. And it's very hard to plan for retirement if you don't know how much money you have.
Right. David, this is Eric. We have some real problems facing this country financially. How severe is this debt crisis, and why is it that no one's talking about it?
Well, it's much, much more severe than any of the politicians let on, and I'll give you an example of that. They're telling Americans that the national debt is $22 trillion and change, which doesn't seem like a big number. It was actually the debt to GDP ratio was slightly higher in the immediate wake of World War II. So a lot of people in that light are saying, hey, not a big deal. We've been worse off and we still recovered. But the problem is we are not including as part of that debt bill the unfunded obligations for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and then ultimately interest in all that debt. Some experts say that if you were to calculate all of the money that we owe that we promised to pay for these entitlement programs, that the national debt would be $120 trillion. But there's actually an expert out of Boston University named Dr. Larry Kotlikoff. He's the foremost expert in what we call fiscal gap accounting. And fiscal gap accounting basically says, let's project out over the next 70 years what we've promised to pay for all these programs, and let's project out what we can actually afford to deliver. And then let's take the difference between those two, figure out the net present value of that future obligation. In other words, how much money would we have to have sitting in a bank account today earning treasury rates to be able to deliver on all these promises that we're required to pay by law? And he says the national debt's not $22 trillion. It's not $120 trillion. It's actually much closer to $239 trillion.
Oh, wow.
He says the national debt is not growing by $1 trillion per year, as the government's telling us. It's actually growing by $6 trillion per year. So we've got major fiscal woes that are facing us as a country. For our movie that we shot last year, we interviewed Tom McClintock, who's on the Republican Budget Committee. He's a congressman out of California. And he says, look, if we keep on the current path, we're going to be Venezuela in 8 years. So we've got very, very smart people who are assessing the situation. They're saying we're getting past the point of no return. Tax rates are going to have to rise dramatically, or we go broke as a country.
Yeah, and that's I think the real key to why your book is so critical at this time is most people, because we're just doing so well as a country, our economy is really thriving over the past few years. Everyone kind of views that as the future. That's exactly where we're going to be forever, but it's just not the case. It's got to correct itself at some point, and we just have to hope it's not dangerously corrective. But if you put the strategies in your book in place, then it almost becomes a non-issue. It really doesn't impact you in terribly difficult, and put you in a difficult position. So when you think about retirement planning, how are all these changes with potential tax hikes and making a written agreement with the government with your 401k, how are those going to affect the good people in America who are planning for retirement?
Well, if you go back to this idea that you don't really know how much money you have in your 401k or an IRA because you can't accurately predict what tax rates are going to be when you take that money out. Well, we have people that think they're going to have plenty of money to meet their retirement needs, but when you actually figure out how much money they're going to be able to keep after tax, they may be running out of money a lot faster than they think. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that tax rates double. Well, if tax rates double, you're going to be spending down your IRAs and 401ks a lot faster. It's going to cause Social Security taxation. If you have a pension, you're keeping less of your pension money than you ever thought. You will therefore have to spend down your 401ks and IRAs that much faster just to be able to compensate. So what we found is that if tax rates double, the average American runs out of money about 12 years faster than someone who is living a completely tax-free retirement. So there's a lot at stake. There's a lot hanging in the balance. And so we're just trying to get the message out as quickly as possible. If you think about the percentage of Americans that have money in the cumulative 401ks and IRAs, it's about $23 trillion in the cumulative IRAs and 401ks of Americans, and there's only about $800 to $900 billion in the cumulative Roth IRAs of Americans. So clearly, most of America is, at least as far as their money goes, they're betting that tax rates will be the same or lower in retirement. But we know that the math and what the experts have been able to show us is actually 180 degrees diametrically opposed to that idea.
Wow. David, this is Eric again. What would happen if our listeners decided to do nothing about this issue? They keep their money in their 401ks, or they decide to go, or just decide, depending on Social Security and Medicare, as their go-to?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Let's say that taxes are 20%. You got $1 million in your IRA. Well, if we really oversimplify this, that means that you're going to be able to keep 80% of your money. Well, guess what? If tax rates go up just 1% to 21%, now you're only keeping 79%, which doesn't seem like a big deal, because I don't think in the big scheme of things it is a big deal if it only goes up by 1%. But what the experts are predicting, I mean, there's former Comptroller General of the federal government, David Walker. He was the CPA of the federal government for 10 years, knows these numbers cold, knows them better than anyone else on the planet. He took one look at the books and he says, we are so bad off as a country that to keep us solvent, we would have to double tax rates immediately. He said that in 2008. He says, if you don't double tax rates immediately, every year that goes by, the national debt will grow on average by $2 trillion per year. So we hit this magical moment in our country when we have $53 trillion of debt. Guess what? If we had $53 trillion of debt, all of the revenue flowing into the U.S. Treasury at that point would only be enough to pay the interest on all that debt. So we're talking about one of the smartest guys in the country who is in the CPA Hall of Fame, says tax rates have to double to keep our country solvent. So if that 20% tax rate went to 40, or your current 30% tax rate went to 60, now all of a sudden you're no longer able to, spend 80% or 70% of your money. You're looking to be able to spend only 60 or potentially 40% of your money. So there are huge, massive, real-life implications for everyday Americans if tax rates were to rise dramatically.
I've heard this story, and I love this story about Ronald Reagan in the 70s as an actor, that he would only shoot a certain number of films because the tax rate for the highest earners was around 70% in the 70s.
Yeah. In fact, if you go back even further to the immediate wake of World War II, the highest marginal tax rate in the country was 94%. And so Ronald Reagan, and that was for any dollar you made above and beyond $200,000. So Ronald Reagan would make about $100,000 per movie, and any dollar he made above and beyond $200,000, he only kept 6 cents on the dollar. And the truth is, he didn't even get to keep the 6 cents because the 6 cents went to the state of California. So Ronald Reagan would only work up to the month of June. Then he'd take the rest of the year off and start making movies again January 1st the following year.
Yeah, that's a scary thought for all our highest earners. I mean, we need them to drive this economy and open businesses and invest. And if they weren't able to make unlimited amounts of money, that would be a really scary thing for everybody. So, one of the things that you outline in your book is 4 tax strategies that can help all of our listeners retire in the 0% tax bracket. Yep. Talk to us about those.
Well, I'm a big fan of having as many streams of tax-free income as possible in retirement. You never know when the IRS is going to legislate one of those streams of tax-free income right out of existence. So I'll give you an example of a typical recommendation that I might give to one of our clients, and it's going to echo those 4 tax-free buckets of money that you talk about. First of all, I really recommend that not a year go by where you don't fully fund your Roth IRA. These are great tax-free investments. They don't contribute to the provisional income thresholds, which cause Social Security taxation. Most people don't realize this, but your Social Security can be taxed if you take too much money out of your 401ks or IRAs. The IRS keeps track of all that stuff. And if you make, for example, as a single person, you make more than $34,000 of provisional income, or as a married couple, more than $44,000 of provisional income, up to 85% of your Social Security can become taxable to you at your highest marginal tax bracket. That's a really, really big deal. A lot of Americans will lose $5,000 to $7,000 of their Social Security because of their withdrawals from their 401ks and IRAs. We love Roth IRAs. We love Roth 401ks. We love Roth conversions because they don't count as provisional income. They don't cause Social Security taxation. And so long as you're 59 and a half when you take the money out, you don't pay federal tax, state tax, capital gains tax. These are truly tax-free investments. We really love the Roth conversion because if you have too much money in your IRA, you can start converting that money over to tax-free. And we want to leave a little bit of money in your tax-deferred bucket because when you retire, you're going to have a standard deduction, which if you retire today is $24,400. What that means is that you could take up to $24,400 out of your IRA without paying any tax at all. That's technically a tax-free stream of income. We also talk about what we call the LIRP, or the Life Insurance Retirement Plan. Basically, it's a bucket of money that gets treated a little bit differently under the IRS tax code than any of the other tax-free buckets we've talked about so far. What happens is you put money in, as your money grows, your bucket begins to fill. Only the IRS treats this bucket a little bit differently. It says, as your money grows, you don't get any 1099s. You don't pay any tax as your money grows. You can touch your money pre-59 and a half with no penalty. When you take the money out, if you take it out the right way, it does not show up as reportable income on your tax return. There are no contribution limits. You can put in as much as you want, relatively speaking. And there are no income limitations, meaning that even Bill Gates, if he wanted to do an LIRP, could do this, whereas Bill Gates could not do, for example, a Roth IRA. And then it also is immune from what we call legislative risk, meaning that should they change the rules somewhere down the road, you would likely get grandfathered under the old rules. So you not only would you be able to keep the bucket, but you could continue to put money into it under the old rules for the rest of their lives. And the IRS says if we're going to give you the benefit of this unlimited bucket of tax-free dollars, they simply require that you be willing to pay the cost of insurance out of this bucket. Essentially, it's the cost of a term insurance policy. And the death benefit also doubles as long-term care. So the LIRP is a great complement to all of these other streams of tax-free income.
Yeah, we're big proponents of the LIRP, and if there's one takeaway that I could give to the listeners today, it would be to talk to a financial expert about a life insurance retirement plan. David, where can people connect with you?
They can connect with me if they're an advisor. They can go to powerzero.com. If they're just a member of the general public, they can go to davidmcknight.com.
Thank you so much for being on the show, David. It's been a real honor and pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Be Insured.